And welcome to another edition of School on Air. Today's biology subject will be looking at a new topic called nutrition in animals. I know we have heard about nutrition, but we need to understand the concepts that is guiding nutrition. We need to know why animals need to feed. We need to know the uses and the importance of nutrition in the animal system. So we'll be looking at various types of food substances. We'll be looking at their definitions, we'll be looking at their explanations, we'll be looking at what each food substances that we see every day, what they actually contain, and how they are important to our development, growth, and repair. If you look at this, you see rice, potatoes, pasta, vegetable, meat, fish, poultry. All these type of foods actually fall into different categories. And as we move along, you see the categories where these food substances fall. Food substances. Food is any substance consumed to provide nutritional support for the body. Any type of food, protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, they are what we use to sustain and to provide energy, and at the same time to give repair to damaged tissues in our body. If you look at this picture here, we have different types of food. But as we go on with the class, we will classify the types of food into different categories. I'm sure we've heard about protein, we've heard about carbohydrates, vitamin, minerals, water, and so on. Food substances is usually of plant or animal origin. We know that if we consume meat, meat is from animal, even chicken, eggs, they are all from animals. But when we start eating vegetable, we know that these are plant origin foods. Vegetable, grains and legumes, we know that they are from plants. Even rice itself is from a plant. Meat, fish, these are all the animal origin types of food that we have. So we have two categories of food. We have the plant origin type of food and the animal origin type of food. Food substances contain essential nutrients such as carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Like we said earlier, that there are different types of food, and they all fall into different categories. For example, carbohydrates has different types of food, and proteins have different type of food. Vitamins, minerals, they all have their classifications. And if you look at this, you will see protein, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals, even water, all classified as a different type of food. For protein, we have foods like beans, meat, chicken, egg, all the normal foods that we eat that contain amino acids and can be broken down to give us energy and strength. For fats and oil, I'm sure we've heard about vegetable oil. For carbohydrates, we can see spaghetti. And for vitamins and minerals, these are the type of foods that gives us supplements from them. Vitamins and minerals are contained in the fruits and the vegetables that we consume. And water, which is the last aspect of our food substances, is also very essential when we talk about nutrition in animal. For water, it helps us hydrate our body, helps in digestion. So if we take all these foods without counting water as a type of food, we will not completely have the necessary nutrients and the necessary metabolic activities to break down our food and absorb it as energy at the end of digestion. But we should know that most of the foods that we consume, water is contained in most of them. Beans, bread, rice, fish, fruits itself are contained in water. So most of the time, our water intake also comes from the food that we consume. Food is the substance ingested by an organism, be it animal, be it human beings, even microorganisms. All they ingest to break down and assimilate is called food. It is assimilated by the organism cells. If you look at this diagram, our food and water and minerals are in this cell. And if you look at this plant cell, you can see the xylem vessel and you can see the phloem vessel. When there is food intake, it's being assimilated by the cells. It is broken down and it is used for repairs and reproduction, growth, digestion, any biological process you can think about, food is necessary because the end product of food is conversion into energy. It helps us repair damaged tissues and helps us in our daily growth and development. Food is used to produce energy, like I said earlier. It is also used to maintain life and stimulate growth. Once we take in food, practically if we have a long day and we've been working since morning, the moment we eat any type of food, our energy is suddenly boosted. It's because the products and the components that food gives our body system utilizes it and converts the chemical components of the food into the energy that is required by the body for proper functioning. And in maintaining life, as life goes on, we need food to keep everything in check. Food is not only for growth and development, it is for total health. Sometimes the food we take helps boost our immune system. And when we talk about the maintenance of life, food is very essential in these aspects. And to stimulate growth, if a baby animal or a baby human is born and food is not part of the necessary requirements, the baby won't grow, even the animals won't grow. That is why food is an essential aspect of growth and development. So our intake of food gives us the ability to be able to grow, helps our cells in reproduction, and helps our body to stimulate the necessary materials that are needed for human growth or animal growth. Even microbial growth, the rates at which they reproduce is based on the amount of food they consume. Types of food substances. There are various types of food substances, namely carbohydrates, fats and oils, proteins, mineral salts, vitamins and water. You can see earlier when we showed the pictures of carbohydrates, fats and oil, protein, mineral salts, vitamins and water. But we'll examine these types of food one after the other to understand what each types of food substances actually does to our system when we consume them. If you look at this table, fats and sweets, this is a pyramid of how food substances should be consumed. If you see fats and sweets, it says use only a little. For protein, which contains fish and meat, it says 2 to 3 servings. For dairy products, which is our milk, chocolates, it says 2 to 3 servings. And for vegetables, you can see that it says 3 to 4 servings. Now for fruits, it says 4 servings. And for grains, it says 6 to 11 servings. Why it is measured in servings is to emphasize the importance and the quantity that each of these food substances, the nutrients it gives to our body, the development that takes place in our body, what our metabolism requires to achieve optimum and maximal growth. For fats and oil, it says we should consume it in little quantity. That's why it says use only a little. For dairy products, about 2 to 3 servings, and for protein, about 2 to 3 servings also. If you look at vegetables, because of the vitamins and minerals that it contains, it is advised that it should be consumed in about 3 to 4 servings, as well as fruits, which is in about 2 to 4 servings also. And if you look at grains, grains actually are the major carbohydrate foods that gives us the #1 instant energy that our body requires for day-to-day activities and growth. That is why it is measured in 6 servings. And if you notice that when we are eating, especially if we are eating rice and beans and meat, the quantity of the rice is always much more than the quantity of the meat, and it is always garnished with beans. And that has made a balanced diet that contains rice, which is a carbohydrate, meat, which is a protein, beans also, which is a protein. Sometimes we add salad to include the vegetable aspect of our servings, and when we drink water, it completes the whole total food substances at a meal. The combination of the various food substances is called balanced diet, as I explained earlier with the illustration of rice, beans, meat, water, and salad. You can see in this picture, these are the combination of various types of food, giving us balanced diets. As we go on, we'll explain what the term balanced diet is and why we need to consume balanced diets and not just an aspect of the type of food substances. Balanced diet, this is a diet that contains adequate amount of all the necessary nutrients required for healthy growth and activity. You can see that it specifically says it contains the adequate amount, not just any amount, not little amount, not more amount, adequate, meaning that there should be a specific amount that a balanced diet should contain. And these amounts of all the necessary nutrients are required for healthy growth and activity. If somebody is eating regularly and taking just carbohydrates, no doubt there will be energy, but there will be deficiency in the aspect of growth. And there will be deficiency in the aspect of total health. If vitamins and minerals are absent in a balanced diet, it means that the components of the food are not optimal to give the necessary nutrients required for healthy growth and activity. A balanced diet is one that contains all the ingredients needed for our body to healthily continue its day-to-day functions in the most efficient way. We can see that this statement emphasizes healthily continue. It means that balanced diet is not just a term that should be used once. It is a continuous process. Anytime we want to take a meal, we should make sure that it is a balanced diet, meaning that containing all the components of the types of food substances that is required by our body to function optimally and to healthily continue our day-to-day activities and functions in the most efficient way. So let's pick carbohydrates as a subtopic and look at the importance. For carbohydrates, I gave examples as bread, rice, grains, and these are the major source of food that gives us instant energy. You can see that carbohydrates in our pyramid, it says it should be about 6 to 11 servings, meaning that it should be the major component of our food, while other things should be included to make it a balanced diet. Because the more carbohydrate we have in a meal determines the amount of energy that our body will derive from that meal. Now, carbohydrates may be classified as monosaccharides, disaccharides, or polysaccharides, depending on the number of monomer sugar units they contain. When we talk about monomer sugar, it means that these sugar units are the ways that we classify the types of carbohydrates that we have, which we mentioned as being monosaccharide, disaccharides, or polysaccharides. So if they say a carbohydrate molecule has one monomer unit, you should be able to assume that since there is one monomer unit, it means that mono, which means one, is a monosaccharide type of carbohydrate. And when it is di, we should understand that it is two monomer units that are contained in this carbohydrate molecule. And for polysaccharides, it's not necessarily three, it can be three or more sugar units or monomer units, depending on how you want to call it. And why I said carbohydrates is a major source of our instant energy is because it is contained mainly of sugar. And when we take sugar, sugar is easily converted into readily energy that the body requires to function optimally and maximally. They constitute a large part of foods such as rice, yam, noodles, bread, and other grain-based products. You can see this picture, this is spaghetti, and we consume spaghetti regularly. You should know that this is carbohydrates, and that is why you are consuming it in larger quantities than the other food substances that we had in our pyramid. Monosaccharide. This contains one sugar unit, while disaccharides 2 sugar units, and polysaccharides 3 or more. As I explained earlier, I said when you want to classify carbohydrates, you can say there are 3 types of carbohydrates. And one is monosaccharide, the other is disaccharide, and the third one is polysaccharide. And if you want to distinguish between these 3, you can distinguish based on their monomer units, which is their sugar units. Monosaccharide, which is 1, contains 1 sugar unit, while disaccharide, which is 2, contains 2 sugar units. Then polysaccharides can contain 3 or more sugar units. Now, polysaccharides are often referred to as complex carbohydrates. Why is that? This is because they are typically long, multiple branch chains of sugar units. Like we said earlier, when we say mono, we mean 1. But in the case of poly, it means multiple branch chain. I told you that it necessarily doesn't have to be 3. It can be more than 3 sugar units. And that is why we call it the complex type of carbohydrates, because they are typically long and multiple branched chain. And their sugar units are branched and multiple. That is why it is called the complex carbohydrate or the complex polysaccharide. Now the difference is that complex carbohydrates take longer to digest and absorb, since their sugar units must be separated from the chain before absorption. Now what this statement means is that when you consume a complex carbohydrate, it takes longer to digest it. Why? Because it is a multiple branch chain sugar unit. And for digestion to occur, these sugar units must be broken down from their chains before the body can absorb it. But in the case of mono and di, the chains are not multiple and they are not branched. So digestion takes place easily on polysaccharides, on monosaccharides and disaccharides, while complex carbohydrate, which is a polysaccharide, takes longer to digest by the body. Summarily, we have understood the importance of feeding, and we know that without the necessary food substances, our body cannot perform optimally. For example, if you are consuming carbohydrates only, like I mentioned earlier, your body would have energy, but other areas of the body where vitamins and minerals are important to us will be lacking in the essential components of food substances that should give us the natural resources that our body requires. And don't forget that I mentioned earlier that food is not just a substance that we take to feel heavy or to say we are not hungry again. It is necessary to take in food, especially a balanced diet form of food, to continually help for optimal day-to-day function, to help in our growth, which is stimulation of growth, and to help in repair. Let me give you an example of repair. For example, maybe we are playing on the football field and we mistakenly bruise our leg. The healing process from the wound into a new skin is part of the functions of food. And if we don't have enough that, our body won't have enough supply to tap into and get the necessary components that is required for repair of damaged cells or damaged tissues or degenerated cells. So food is essential in this aspect, as they help in stimulating growth and they help in repairing damaged tissues in our body. Finally, one major importance of food that you should take note of is that food in itself gives us the natural boosting of immunity. So as we are rounding off this class, I want us to look at some assessments and try to recap what we have learned from this class. Assessment. What is balanced diet? Number 2. Polysaccharides contain how many sugar units? A, 2, B, 3, C, 3 or more, D, 1. The assessment once again, what is balanced diet? That is the first question. Then number 2, polysaccharide contains how many sugar units? A, 2, B, 3, C, 3 or more, D, 1. You can send your answers to the address on the screen, and I hope you have learned a lot from this class. Hope to see you next time. Bye for now.